I'm Maxwell, 30 years old and finally living my dream after landing a software engineering job that let me buy my dream car, a gleaming 2022 Audi S5. Growing up, I was always second best to my golden child sister Kimberly. When my parents called asking to borrow my pride and joy to take her and the kids to Six Flags, I hesitated but gave in. Family first, right? Before I dive in, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe to hear what happened when my generosity backfired spectacularly. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood in suburban Chicago, where I grew up perpetually standing in Kimberly's shadow. She's 3 years older than me, and from the day I was born, the comparison game began. Kimberly was the academic superstar valedictorian, scholarship recipient, and the perfect daughter who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. She was homecoming queen, captain of the debate team, and had a social calendar so packed it made everyone's head spin. Then there was me. I wasn't a troublemaker or a bad student. I got solid B's with occasional A's, played baseball but wasn't the star, and had a decent group of friends. Normal kid stuff. But in the eyes of my parents, Harold and Diana Jenkins, normal wasn't good enough. Not when they had already tasted the sweetness of exceptional with Kimberly. Why can't you apply yourself like your sister? Became the soundtrack of my teenage years. When I brought home a B+ in advanced chemistry, instead of congratulations, I'd hear, your sister got straight as in all her science classes. When I made the baseball team but not as starting pitcher, my dad would reminisce about how Kimberly dominated every activity she attempted. The pattern continued through high school. When college application time came around, Kimberly had already graduated from Northwestern with honors and was heading to law school. I got accepted to University of Illinois, a great school by any measure, but the congratulations from my parents felt hollow, tinged with an unspoken if only it had been Ivy League. That's when I decided to take charge of my own life. Unlike Kimberly, whose education was fully funded by our parents, I worked 2 jobs through college, one at the campus IT help desk and another delivering pizzas on weekends. Every summer, I took internships in tech companies, building my resume and connections without a single dollar from my parents. It wasn't easy, but it taught me self-reliance in ways my sister never had to learn. My relationship with Kimberly herself was complicated. I loved her, she was my sister after all, but I resented the pedestal our parents placed her on. To her credit, she wasn't openly arrogant about being the favorite, but she never really stood up for me either. She accepted the preferential treatment as her birthright. Kimberly's life followed the path my parents envisioned. She married Travis Williams right after law school, a nice enough guy who came from a good family, as my mother would constantly point out. Within 6 years, they had 3 kids, Emma, 8, Jacob, 6, and Lily, 4. Picture perfect grandchildren for my picture, perfect sister's picture, perfect life. At least that was the narrative until last year. Travis lost his position at a prestigious law firm during company-wide layoffs. Suddenly, their financial foundation wasn't so solid. They sold their house and moved in with my parents temporarily, a situation that had already stretched to 8 months when this story takes place. Meanwhile, I had been building my career methodically. After graduating, I worked for 3 different tech companies, each move a strategic step up the ladder. 2 years ago, I landed a senior engineering position at a cybersecurity firm that finally paid the kind of salary I had been working toward. I lived modestly in a 1-bedroom apartment, saving aggressively for the one thing I had wanted since I was 16, my dream car. For 2 years, I put aside bonuses and lived below my means. I researched, test drove, and planned. Then finally, 4 months ago, I walked into the Audi dealership and drove out in a 2022 S5 in quantum gray. The feeling was indescribable, not just owning something beautiful and powerful, but knowing I had earned every inch of it through my own hard work. My parents' reaction? It seems awfully impractical, and couldn't you have chosen something less flashy? Followed by, your sister is making do with a 7-year-old minivan for her whole family. Even in my moment of personal achievement, the comparisons wouldn't stop. Despite all this, I still showed up for Sunday dinners twice a month. I still remembered everyone's birthdays with thoughtful gifts. I still tried to be a good son and brother and uncle, even if I felt like an outsider in my own family. Because that's what family is supposed to do, right? Show up for each other, even when it's hard. Little did I know how that sense of obligation was about to be tested in ways I never imagined. It was a Friday evening in June, when my phone lit up with my mother's call. I was just settling in for a quiet weekend, planning to catch up on some reading and maybe take my Audi for a drive along Lake Michigan on Sunday morning. "Maxwell, how's my boy doing?" My mother's voice had that syrupy sweetness that immediately put me on alert. This wasn't a social call. "I'm fine, Mom. Just got home from work. What's up?" "Oh, nothing much. Your father and I were just talking about you, wondering how that new job is treating you." I leaned back in my chair, already sensing the direction this conversation was heading. "The job I've had for 2 years now? It's still good. Same as when you asked last week." "No need for that tone, Maxwell." Her voice sharpened momentarily before returning to its honeyed state. "We're just taking an interest. That's what parents do." I sighed, already regretting my defensiveness. "Sorry, Mom. Long week. Did you need something?" There was a pause, and then, "Well, since you asked, we've had a bit of a situation here. The minivan broke down yesterday, something with the transmission. Your father took it to Martin's garage, but they can't get the part until next Wednesday at the earliest." "That's too bad," I said, genuinely sympathetic but still not seeing where I fit into this problem. "Yes, it's put us in quite a pickle. You see, we promised Kimberly we'd take the kids to Six Flags this weekend. They've been looking forward to it for months. Emma made a countdown calendar and everything, and there it was. The real reason for the call. We were wondering," she continued, "if we could possibly borrow your car for the weekend, just Saturday and Sunday. We'd have it back to you Sunday night, good as new." My stomach dropped. My car, my brand new, pristine Audi that I babied more than some people cared for their actual babies. The car I didn't even eat in for fear of crumbs. "Mom, I don't know. Your sister has been through so much lately," she interrupted, her voice taking on that guilt-inducing quality I knew all too well. "With Travis still looking for work and the kids cooped up in our house. They need this, Maxwell. Especially Emma, she's been having such a hard time adjusting to the new school." I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar weight of family expectations pressing down on me. "Couldn't you rent a car? I could help with the cost," I suggested. "On such short notice? And with the holiday weekend, everything's booked solid." We tried, believe me. I doubted they had tried very hard, but I bit my tongue. "The kids will be heartbroken, Maxwell. Absolutely heartbroken. Is that what you want?" And there it was, the emotional manipulation that I should have been immune to by now but somehow never was. My mind flashed back to Christmas 3 years ago when I had declined to fly home, planning instead to take a much-needed vacation with friends. The cold shoulder I received for months afterward, the passive-aggressive comments, the way my mother told extended family I couldn't be bothered to come home. It had taken nearly a year for things to return to normal. Was my car worth another family Cold War? Was I being unreasonable? "Let me think about it," I said, trying to buy time. "The kids are going to bed soon," my mother pressed. It would mean so much to them to know tomorrow's trip is still on. I exhaled, slowly. "Fine. You can borrow it for the weekend." Her voice immediately brightened. "Oh, Maxwell, you're a lifesaver. Truly, the kids will be so excited." "But there are rules," I added quickly. "No smoking in the car, not that you do, but just saying. No eating either. And Dad needs to be careful with it. It's not like his old Buick." Of course," she said dismissively. "We'll treat it like it's made of glass." My father got on the phone then. "Thanks, son. We appreciate it. Just be careful with it, Dad. The handling is different than what you're used to. We know how to drive, son. We taught you, remember?" His tone had an edge to it, that familiar hint of condescension that suggested I was overreacting. We arranged that I would drive over after work and drop off the car, then Uber back to my apartment. They'd return it Sunday evening, and I'd Uber back over to pick it up. Later that evening, I pulled into my parents' driveway, already feeling a twinge of regret. The house looked the same as always, the modest 2-story where I'd grown up, now feeling more crowded with Kimberly's family and residents. My nieces and nephew burst out the front door as soon as I parked, running toward me with the unfiltered excitement only children can muster. Uncle Max, Lily, the youngest, wrapped herself around my legs while Emma and Jacob circled the car, eyes wide. "Is this really yours?" Emma asked, her hand hovering near the paint, but not quite touching it, a restraint I appreciated. "Sure is," I said, feeling a surge of pride despite my anxiety. "It's the coolest car ever," Jacob declared with the absolute certainty of a 6-year-old. Kimberly appeared on the porch, Travis behind her. "Kids, don't crowd your uncle." She walked down to give me a quick hug. "Thanks for doing this, Max." "The kids haven't stopped talking about Six Flags since Mom told them." I nodded, trying to ignore the faint trace of entitlement in her voice, as if my lending the car was the least I could do. My parents emerged next, my father immediately walking around the Audi, inspecting it with critical eyes. "German engineering," he muttered, neither approval nor disapproval in his tone. "Lot of bells and whistles. Let me show you how everything works," I said, opening the driver's door. For the next 15 minutes, I went through all the features, the infotainment system, the driver settings, the advanced safety features. My father nodded impatiently, clearly thinking I was over-explaining. "It's a car, Maxwell. I've been driving for 50 years without an owner's manual. It's just that it has some specific—" "We'll figure it out," he cut me off, taking the key fob from my hand. "Don't worry so much." My mother patted my arm. "We'll take good care of it. Now, do you want to stay for dinner before you head back?" I declined, claiming work to finish. The truth was, watching my father drive away in my car would be painful enough without dragging it out. As I stood in the driveway waiting for my Uber, I watched my father adjust the seat and mirrors. The kids were already piling in the back, my mother fussing with their seat belts. Kimberly waved from the porch. "Have fun tomorrow," I called as they backed out of the driveway. My father gave a casual wave, and then my beautiful Audi was disappearing down the street, carrying my family away. The Uber ride home was quiet, my mind racing with all the things that could go wrong. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, that my car would be fine, that this was what family did for each other. But as I entered my empty apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just made a terrible mistake. The weekend crawled by. I tried to distract myself with work, with Netflix, with a run along the lakefront. But my thoughts kept returning to my car. Was my father driving carefully? Were the kids keeping their snacks away from the leather seats? Had they remembered to use the premium gas I'd specified? I considered texting to check in but stopped myself. I didn't want to be that guy, the overprotective car owner, who couldn't let go for 2 days. So I waited, telling myself that Sunday evening would come soon enough, and my anxiety would prove unfounded. If only I'd known how right my instincts were. Monday morning arrived with no word from my parents. According to our agreement, they should have returned my car Sunday evening, but when I'd texted around 8 to arrange pickup, I received no response. I told myself they were probably just tired from the long day at Six Flags and had gone to bed early. They'd contact me in the morning. But by 10 o'clock Monday, my phone remained silent. I sent another text. "Hey, need to coordinate picking up my car. Let me know what works." No response. By noon, with still no word, I began to worry. 3 calls to my mother went straight to voicemail. 2 to my father did the same. I even tried Kimberly, but her phone just rang endlessly before cutting to her message system. Something wasn't right. My family wasn't great at communication, but this complete silence was unusual, especially after borrowing something as significant as my car. I was considering driving to their house when my phone chimed with a banking notification. I opened it, expecting to see my regular Monday coffee shop charge. Instead, I saw transaction, $1,800, city towing and recovery. My blood ran cold. Towing? My car had been towed? How? Why? And why was the charge on my card? With shaking hands, I searched for the company's number and dialed. "City Towing. How can I help you?" A gruff voice answered. "My name is Maxwell Jenkins. I just saw a charge from your company on my credit card for $1,800. Can you tell me what this is about?" "Hold on, let me check." There was the sound of typing then. "Jenkins. Yeah, here it is. Audi S5, Quantum Gray, license plate AVH2187, towed from the Dugout Bar parking lot on Saturday night. Vehicle was parked illegally in a reserved space and had been there over 24 hours. Owner didn't claim it until this morning. My mind struggled to process this information. The Dugout Bar? That was a sports bar in Evanston, a good 30 miles from Six Flags. What was my car doing there? And why had it been left overnight? There must be some mistake, I said. My car was supposed to be with my family at Six Flags this weekend. Look, sir, I just know what's in the system. Your car was towed Saturday night around 11:30. A Harold Jenkins claimed it this morning using your credit card information. Said he had permission. My father. Using my credit card information, which I had never given him. This doesn't make sense, I muttered, more to myself than the operator. Who authorized the payment with my card? Like I said, Harold Jenkins. Had your card details. Said he was authorized to use it. We verified the billing address. My head was spinning. My father had somehow used my credit card to pay for retrieving my car from a bar parking lot. A bar nowhere near Six Flags, where they were supposed to be taking Kimberly's kids for a fun family weekend. Thank you, I said automatically, ending the call. I sat in stunned silence, trying to piece together what might have happened. Had there been an emergency? But why not call me? And what were they doing at a bar with 3 young children? Before I could formulate a plan, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered immediately. Is this Maxwell Jenkins? A professional male voice inquired. Yes, this is Maxwell. Mr. Jenkins, this is Officer Ryan Phillips from the Evanston Police Department. I'm calling regarding your 2022 Audi S5. My heart sank further. What about my car? Sir, your vehicle was involved in an incident Saturday night in the parking lot of the Dugout Bar on Central Street. Security camera footage shows it striking another vehicle before leaving the scene. A hit and run. My car had been used in a hit and run. I wasn't driving, I said quickly. My parents borrowed my car for the weekend. Yes, we're aware. The footage clearly shows an older gentleman matching the description of Harold Jenkins, whom we've identified as your father. He appears to be entering the vehicle in an impaired state. Impaired. The officer was telling me my father had been drunk. The owner of the damaged vehicle filed a report. Normally, we'd be looking at hit-and-run charges, but since we've identified the vehicle and the insurance information has been provided, the other party is willing to handle it through insurance rather than pressing charges. I couldn't speak for a moment. My father had drunkenly hit another car with my Audi and fled the scene. My car was involved in a crime. Mr. Jenkins? Are you there? Yes, I managed. I'm just processing. This is the first I'm hearing of any of this. I understand this might come as a shock. We've already spoken with your father this morning when he came to provide insurance information. He indicated he had your permission to drive the vehicle. He had permission to take my family to Six Flags, I said, my voice hardening, not to go drinking at a bar. There was an awkward pause. Well, that's between you and your family. From our perspective, as long as the damage to the other vehicle is covered by insurance and your father cooperates with the investigation, we consider this matter mostly resolved, though there may still be a citation for leaving the scene. I thanked the officer, took his contact information, and hung up, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The pieces were falling into place, but they formed a picture I couldn't quite believe. My parents had lied about the entire Six Flags trip. My father had taken my car to a bar, gotten drunk, hit another vehicle, and fled the scene. Then they had somehow used my credit card to pay an enormous towing fee. And through it all, they had been ignoring my calls and texts. The betrayal was overwhelming. Not just the misuse of my car, though that was bad enough, but the elaborate lie about the purpose. Where had Kimberly and the kids been during all this? Were they part of the deception? I grabbed my keys to my apartment, not my car, and headed for the door. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to get them over the phone, especially since no one was answering anyway. I called an Uber and directed it to my parents' house, my mind racing with questions and accusations. The ride felt both too long and too short. I wanted time to calm down, but I also needed to confront them immediately. As the Uber pulled up to the familiar house, I saw my Audi parked in the driveway. From the outside, it looked intact, though I couldn't assess any damage from this distance. What hurt more than any potential damage to my car was seeing the casual way it had been returned parked as if nothing unusual had happened, no attempt to contact me, no acknowledgement of the chaos they had caused. With a deep breath, I walked up to the front door, still unsure of exactly what I was going to say, but knowing I couldn't let this betrayal stand. I rang the doorbell, my pulse pounding in my ears. Inside, I could hear the sound of children playing Emma's distinct laugh, Jacob's animated voice as he apparently reenacted some superhero scene. The normalcy of it all made my blood boil even hotter. How could everything sound so ordinary when my world had just been turned upside down? My mother opened the door, and her expression shifted instantly from welcoming to guarded when she saw my face. "Maxwell, we were going to call you tonight about the car. Come in, come in." Her voice was artificially bright, her smile not reaching her eyes. I stepped into the living room, where an almost surreal domestic scene greeted me. My father was in his recliner, reading a newspaper. Kimberly sat on the couch folding laundry, while her kids played with Legos on the carpet. No one looked up immediately, as if my arrival was expected and unremarkable. "You were going to call me tonight?" I said, not bothering to hide the edge in my voice. After ignoring my texts and calls since yesterday, that got their attention. My father lowered his newspaper. Kimberly's hands stilled on a half-folded t-shirt. "We've been busy," my mother said vaguely. "Sunday was exhausting after the park, and then this morning we had to deal with errands." "Errands," I repeated flatly. "Like picking up my car from a towing company after it was involved in a hit and run?" The room went silent except for the oblivious sounds of the children playing. My father cleared his throat. "Now, Maxwell, it wasn't that serious. Just a little fender bender in a parking lot. These things happen." I stared at him, incredulous. "A fender bender you left the scene of, while driving under the influence. In my car." My mother stepped between us, her hands raised placatingly. "Honey, you're making this sound much worse than it is. Yes, there was a tiny accident. Your father took care of it this morning." "Took care of it?" "By using my credit card information, which I never gave him, to pay an $1,800 towing fee? By talking to the police about my car being involved in a crime?" Kimberly stood up now, her expression hardening. "You're being dramatic, Max. It was barely a scratch on the other car. Dad left his information with the bar. He just didn't wait around, because it was late." "And why was he at a bar at all?" I demanded, looking from face to face. "You were supposed to be at Six Flags with the kids. That was the whole reason you borrowed my car." A tense silence fell. The children, finally sensing the adult tension, quieted their play and looked up with curious eyes. My father sighed heavily. "We were going to tell you, but we knew you'd overreact just like you're doing now." "Overreact? You lied to me about why you needed my car." "Kids," Kimberly said sharply, "go play in the backyard for a bit. Grown-up talk." With reluctance, Emma, Jacob, and Lily filed out through the kitchen to the back door. When they were gone, Kimberly turned to me, arms crossed. "Look, the Six Flags plan changed. It's not that big a deal." "Changed to what exactly?" I pressed, looking at each of them in turn. More silence. Then my father spoke. "Some of the guys from my bowling league were getting together at the dugout to watch the Cubs game. I haven't been able to go in months because of the minivan situation. Your mother always needs it. When Kimberly decided the kids were too tired for Six Flags, I saw an opportunity for a guy's night. I felt like I was in some bizarre alternate reality. So let me get this straight. You borrowed my car under false pretenses, then decided to use it for a drinking session with your buddies? And none of you thought maybe you should tell me about this change of plans?" "We knew you wouldn't understand," my mother said, her tone suggesting I was being unreasonable. "You're always so particular about that car. It's just a thing, Maxwell. Family is what matters." "Family?" I laughed bitterly. "Is family lying to each other? Is family taking advantage of each other? Taking advantage?" My mother's voice rose. "After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me lately, Mom? I bought that car with my own money. Money I earned without any help from either of you. Unlike Kimberly, who's living here rent-free with her entire family." Kimberly's face flushed. Don't you dare bring my family into this. Not everyone has the luxury of only caring about themselves and their precious possessions. I'm caring about myself because no one in this family ever has. The words exploded out of me, years of pent-up feelings finding voice. You needed a car for the weekend, fine. But you could have just been honest about why. And would you have said yes if Dad told you he wanted to go to a sports bar? My mother challenged. Probably not. And that would have been my right. It's my car. You've always been selfish with your things, my mother said, her voice heavy with disappointment. Even as a child, you never wanted to share your toys with your sister. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Selfish? For not wanting my car used for a drunken night out that ended in a hit and run? For expecting basic honesty from my family? My father stood up, his expression darkening. That's enough, Maxwell. I've apologized for the accident. It happened, it's done, and I'm taking care of it. You need to let this go before you say something you'll regret. I'm not the one who should be worried about regrets, I shot back. You lied to my face, took my car to a bar, damaged it, fled the scene of an accident, and then used my credit card without permission. In what world am I the one in the wrong here? The three of them exchanged glances, a familiar, silent communication that had always excluded me. You're blowing this way out of proportion, Kimberly said, her tone dismissive. The car's fine. The other car will be fixed. No one was hurt. Why are you making such a huge deal out of this? I looked at her, truly looked at her, and for the first time saw clearly how the family dynamic had shaped us both, her into someone who expected accommodation without accountability, and me into someone always expected to give without complaint. Because it's not just about the car, I said, my voice quieter but no less intense. It's about respect. It's about trust. It's about decades of being treated as less than in this family. And I'm done with it. The back door opened, and the kids tumbled back in, followed by Travis, Kimberly's husband, who must have been outside with them. He took in the tense scene with a quick glance. Everything okay in here? He asked cautiously. No, I said before anyone else could answer. Nothing's okay. Your in-laws borrowed my car under false pretenses, used it for a bar crawl, got in an accident, fled the scene, and stuck me with a massive towing bill. Travis's eyebrows shot up and he looked at Kimberly. Is that true? Maxwell is exaggerating, she said quickly. Dad had a little fender bender, that's all. At a bar, I added. Not at Six Flags where they told me they were taking your kids. Travis's expression shifted from confusion to something harder to read. He looked at my father, then at Kimberly. You told me you canceled Six Flags because Emma wasn't feeling well. Silence fell again, heavier this time. The lies were unraveling, layer by layer. The tension in the living room was suffocating. My mother was the first to try to salvage the situation, putting on her best peacemaking voice. This has all been a misunderstanding. Harold, why don't you explain to Travis and Maxwell what really happened? My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Look, it's simple. The Six Flags plan fell through. Emma had a bit of a cold. She did not, I interrupted. She's perfectly fine. I just heard her laughing and playing. Kids recover quickly, Kimberly snapped. I turned to Travis. They're lying to you too. They never intended to take the kids to Six Flags. My father wanted the car for his bowling buddies' night out. Travis looked at Kimberly, his expression hardening. Is that true? Did you know about this? Kimberly's hesitation was answer enough. You lied to me too. Travis's voice was quiet but filled with disappointment. You told me your dad needed the car because the van broke down, which was true. But you never mentioned it was for a night at the bar. It wasn't like that, Kimberly insisted. Dad deserved a night out. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop the lies. All of you. Something inside me had broken free, years of repressed anger and hurt crystallizing into absolute clarity. I have the towing receipt. I have the police report. I have the security camera stills the officer sent me, showing Dad stumbling to my car. I pulled out my phone, bringing up the email from Officer Phillips with the attached images. I held it up for everyone to see my father, clearly intoxicated, fumbling with the door of my Audi. This isn't about Emma having a cold or plans changing. This is about using me, lying to me, and having absolutely no respect for me or my property. The room fell silent. My father stared at the floor. My mother wrung her hands. Kimberly looked to Travis for support, but found none. In fact, Travis stepped away from her, moving closer to me. Max is right. This isn't okay. Not any part of it. I felt a surge of vindication at having anyone take my side for once. Thank you, Travis. Don't thank me. He looked grim. I had no idea about any of this. I thought we were all being honest with each other. My father finally spoke up, his voice subdued but still defensive. I admit I shouldn't have been driving after having a few beers. And yes, I should have stayed at the scene. But the damage was minimal, just a scrape on the other car's bumper. I left my business card under their wiper. That doesn't make it legal, Dad. It's still a hit and run. My patience was completely gone. And what about using my credit card without permission? That's fraud. Your mother handled that, my father muttered. I don't know about any credit card. All eyes turned to my mother, who had the grace to look embarrassed. I may have used the card information from when you ordered that birthday gift for Lily and had it shipped here. She had the audacity to add, I was going to pay you back. I laughed, a hollow sound devoid of humor. So we can add identity theft to the list. Perfect. Now you're just being dramatic, Kimberly cut in. Mom wasn't stealing your identity. She was trying to fix Dad's mistake by committing a different crime. I was nearly shouting now. And you still haven't explained why any of you thought it was okay to lie about why you needed my car in the first place. The kids had gone quiet, their eyes wide as they watched the adults arguing. Lily, the youngest, began to whimper, sensing the tension. See what you're doing? Kimberly hissed. You're upsetting the children. No. Your lies and deception are what created this situation, I fired back. Travis moved to comfort Lily, picking her up. Emma, Jacob, let's go upstairs for a bit, okay? Grown-ups need to talk. After Travis led the children upstairs, I turned back to my family. My resolve hardened. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay for the towing bill. You're going to pay for any damages to my car. And if there are legal consequences for the hit and run, you're going to handle them without involving me. My father nodded reluctantly. Fine, I'll take care of the costs. And I want an apology. A real one. Not excuses or minimizing or telling me I'm overreacting. My mother stepped forward, reaching for my arm, which I pulled away. Maxwell, sweetie, of course we're sorry things got messy, but we're family. Family forgives. That's not an apology, Mom. That's manipulation, the same manipulation you've been using on me my entire life. What's that supposed to mean? Her voice turned defensive. It means you only see me as useful when you need something. It means Kimberly has always been the golden child, and I've always been the afterthought. It means you think you can lie to me, use me, and disrespect me because we're family and I'll just take it. That's not true. My mother's eyes welled with tears. Tears I knew from experience were as much a tactical choice as a genuine emotion. Isn't it? When was the last time you bragged about my accomplishments the way you do about Kimberly's? When was the last time you called just to check on me, not to ask for something? My sister stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. This is ridiculous. You've always had this victim complex, Maxwell. Always jealous, always comparing, always keeping score. You're damn right I've been keeping score. I shot back, and the score isn't even close. I've spent my entire life being told I'm not good enough, not accomplished enough, not generous enough. Well, I'm done. I'm setting boundaries, starting now. I turned and walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. I expect the $1,800 for the towing fee in my account by the end of the week. And Dad, you'd better hope the other driver doesn't press charges, because I won't be covering for you. Maxwell, please, my mother began, but I cut her off. I'll be by tomorrow to pick up my car. Have the keys ready. With that, I walked out, ignoring their calls for me to come back and be reasonable. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was finally being reasonable toward myself and my own well-being. As I waited for another Uber to take me home, My phone began blowing up with texts and calls from my mother, my father, Kimberly. I silenced it, not ready for another round of excuses and guilt trips. By the time I reached my apartment, the messages had spread to extended family. An aunt texting to say I was being too hard on my parents. A cousin asking why I was causing drama over just a car. The family grapevine was alive and well, and predictably, I was being cast as the villain. I considered blocking everyone's numbers, at least temporarily, but part of me knew that would only escalate things, giving them more ammunition to paint me as unreasonable. So I sent one text to the family group chat. I need space to process what's happened. Please respect that. We can talk when I'm ready, and only if there's genuine accountability for the dishonesty and disrespect. Then I turned off my phone, made myself a strong drink, and sat in the silence of my apartment, feeling both utterly drained and strangely liberated. For the first time, I had stood up for myself against the family dynamics that had shaped and diminished me for 3 decades. It hurt. It was terrifying, but it also felt necessary, like lancing an infected wound. The pain was acute, but maybe, just maybe, healing could finally begin. 3 days passed in silence. I had turned my phone back on but set up filters so only work calls and texts would notify me. The rest, dozens from family members, accumulated unread. I went through the motions at work, grateful that my job required enough focus to provide some escape from my thoughts. On the 3rd evening, my doorbell rang unexpectedly. I approached cautiously, half expecting to see my mother or father on my doorstep, ready with fresh guilt trips and minimizations. Instead, through the peephole, I saw Travis. I opened the door, genuinely surprised. "Travis? What are you doing here?" He stood awkwardly in the hallway, hands in his pockets. "Can I come in for a minute, just to talk?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. Travis had never been to my apartment before. In fact, despite being married to my sister for 9 years, we'd never had a one-on-one conversation of any real depth. "Nice place," he commented, looking around at my minimalist decor. "Clean? Thanks." I gestured to the couch. "Have a seat. Can I get you anything? Water? Beer? Beer would be great, actually." He sank onto the couch, looking tired. I grabbed 2 beers from the fridge and handed him one, taking the armchair across from him. "So, what brings you all the way over here?" Travis took a long sip before answering. "First, I want you to know I came on my own. Kimberly doesn't know I'm here. Neither do your parents. This was unexpected." "Okay. Look, I need to tell you something. About your dad." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "This wasn't the first time." "The first time what?" "The first time he's driven drunk. The first time he's gotten into an accident. The first time your mother has covered for him." Travis's expression was grim. "It's been happening for years." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What are you talking about?" Travis sighed heavily. "Your dad has a drinking problem, Maxwell. Has for a long time. Usually, he's careful, only drinks at home. Has your mom drive, that kind of thing. But sometimes, I had no idea," I said truthfully. "They've gotten good at hiding it. Your mom is the master enabler, covers his tracks, makes excuses, shields him from consequences. And Kimberly learned from the best." I took a moment to process this. It explained some things: my father's occasional mood swings, certain tense family dinners, mysterious dents in vehicles that were never discussed. "Why are you telling me this now?" Travis set his beer down. "Because I'm tired of the lies, too. When we moved in with your parents, I thought it would be temporary. A few months while I found a new position. But it's been almost a year now, and I'm watching my kids grow up in a house built on secrets and deception." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "You think you're the only one who feels like an outsider in that family? Try being the son-in-law who can't provide for his family anymore, living under Harold's roof, watching him spiral while everyone pretends everything's fine." For the first time, I saw Travis clearly, not just as Kimberly's husband or my niece's and nephew's father, but as a man struggling with his own place in the family hierarchy. "The accident with your car was bad," he continued. "But what scares me more is that my kids were almost in that car with him. If the Six Flags trip had actually happened, your dad would have been driving them home." A chill ran down my spine at the thought. Kimberly swears she wouldn't have let him drive if he'd been drinking, Travis added. But the fact is, she's blind to how bad it's gotten. They all are. Why haven't you said anything before now? Travis laughed bitterly. You've met your sister. You know how she reacts to criticism of your parents. Besides, I'm hardly in a position to make waves. We're living in their house, eating their food. I nodded, understanding completely. But after seeing how they all lied to you, how they treated you when you called them out on it, he shook his head. I couldn't stay silent anymore. It's not right, Maxwell. None of it is right. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of his revelations settling between us. What do you want to do about it? I finally asked. I want us to meet with them. All of them. You and me, presenting a united front. No more brushing things under the rug. No more pretending. I considered this. You think they'll listen? Honestly? No. At least not at first. But they need to hear it anyway. Travis leaned forward again. I'm not doing this just for you, or even just for me. I'm doing it for my kids. They deserve better than to grow up thinking this is what family means. His words resonated deeply. We talked for another hour, planning our approach. Travis had already scoped out a family counselor who specialized in addiction and family dynamics. He suggested a neutral meeting place, not my parents' home where they held all the power, and not my apartment where they'd feel ganged up on. 2 days later, we met at a quiet coffee shop, halfway between our homes. I arrived first, securing a corner table with enough privacy for a difficult conversation. Travis arrived next with Kimberly, who looked confused and annoyed. My parents came last, my mother's expression pinched with worry, my father looking defiant. What's this all about? My mother asked as they settled into their seats. Some kind of intervention? Actually, yes, Travis said calmly. That's exactly what this is. My father scoffed. This is ridiculous. If this is still about the car, it's about much more than the car, I cut in. It's about patterns of behavior that have gone on for too long. For the next 2 hours, Travis and I laid everything out: the drinking, the lies, the favoritism, the enabling. Kimberly initially reacted with anger, accusing Travis of betrayal and me of exaggeration. My mother alternated between denial and tears. My father sat stonily silent for most of it. But slowly, as we refused to back down or be derailed by emotional manipulation, something shifted. Maybe it was Travis describing how he'd found empty bottles hidden in the garage. Maybe it was me calmly presenting the police report about the hit and run. Maybe it was the realization that for once they weren't facing a divided front they could easily conquer. I never meant for things to go this far, my father finally said, his voice subdued. With the car, I mean. I thought I was fine to drive. I always think I'm fine. But you weren't fine, I said. And you could have hurt someone. You could have hurt yourself. And you lied to all of us, Travis added, looking at Kimberly. Every single one of us. Kimberly's eyes filled with tears. I was just trying to protect Dad. And the kids, they don't need to know their grandfather has a problem. But he does have a problem, Travis insisted gently. And pretending he doesn't is making it worse, not better. My mother, who had been quietly crying, finally spoke. What do you want us to do? Turn our backs on Harold after 40 years of marriage? No, I said. We want you to stop turning your backs on the truth. Dad needs help, and this family needs healthier patterns. It wasn't an immediate conversion. There were still arguments, still attempts at deflection. But by the end of the conversation, some concrete agreements had been reached. My father, looking more humbled than I'd ever seen him, agreed to attend an AA meeting. My mother reluctantly accepted that she'd been enabling his behavior and agreed to attend Al-Anon. They both acknowledged the years of favoritism toward Kimberly and how it had hurt me. Most surprisingly, my father took full responsibility for the car incident. I'll sell my coin collection to cover the towing fee and any damages, he said. And I'll deal with whatever legal consequences come from the hit and run. You won't be involved, Maxwell. Kimberly's apology was less direct but still significant. I didn't realize how it felt from your perspective, she admitted. I never asked to be the favorite. I just accepted it because it was easier. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a complete transformation. But it was a start, the first honest conversation our family had shared in, perhaps forever. As we prepared to leave, my mother reached for my hand across the table. "I'm sorry, Maxwell. Truly sorry. Not just for the car, but for everything. We haven't been fair to you." The words I'd been waiting to hear for 30 years. They didn't immediately heal all wounds, but they opened a door I thought had been permanently closed. Travis caught my eye and gave a small nod of acknowledgement. We'd done what we came to do. The rest would take time. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen, preparing snacks for movie night. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Emma, Jacob, and Lily bouncing with excitement, Travis and Kimberly behind them. "Uncle Max!" Lily launched herself at me for a hug, a weekly ritual now. "Hey, Munchkins." I high-fived Jacob and accepted Emma's more grown-up side hug. "Snacks are almost ready. Why don't you guys pick out the movie?" As the kids raced to my living room to debate their selection, Kimberly handed me a bottle of wine. "Thanks for doing this. They look forward to it all week." "Me too," I said, and meant it. The last 6 months had transformed our family in ways I never thought possible. My father was 4 months sober, attending AA meetings 3 times a week. My mother had found unexpected support in Al-Anon, slowly learning to stop controlling and enabling those around her. Travis had landed a new job, and they were saving for their own place again. And my relationship with Kimberly had evolved from competitive siblings to something closer to friends. We still had our moments of tension, but the honesty that had begun in that coffee shop had continued, allowing us to address issues as they arose rather than letting resentment fester. My Audi, repaired and restored, sat in my parking space downstairs, but it no longer represented the pinnacle of my achievement or my primary source of pride. Instead, my growing relationship with my nieces and nephew brought me joy I hadn't anticipated. Being the uncle I wanted to be reliable, fun, supportive, had become more important than any material possession. Weekly family dinners were now held at rotating locations, sometimes at my parents', sometimes at my apartment, occasionally at a restaurant. The dynamics had shifted subtly but significantly. My parents made conscious efforts to ask about my work, to acknowledge my accomplishments, to treat me and Kimberly with equal interest and respect. It wasn't perfect. My father had one relapse 3 months in, a humbling reminder that recovery isn't linear. My mother occasionally slipped into old patterns of favoritism without realizing it. Kimberly and I still had moments of reverting to our childhood roles. But the difference was that now we talked about these things. The family therapist we'd been seeing monthly had given us tools to communicate more effectively, to recognize unhealthy patterns, and to establish boundaries without burning bridges. I'd done my own work too. Individual therapy had helped me process my childhood feelings of inadequacy, my resentment toward Kimberly, and my struggle with setting boundaries. I was learning that standing up for myself didn't make me selfish, and that forgiving my family didn't mean forgetting or enabling harmful behavior. Earth to Maxwell, Kimberly's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She was arranging crackers on the snack tray. "You zoned out there." "Just thinking about how much has changed," I admitted. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Remember when we couldn't be in the same room without taking shots at each other? Feels like another lifetime." I handed her napkins for the coffee table. "Although you still have terrible taste in movies," she laughed, swatting my arm. "Better than your obsession with those boring documentaries." This kind of teasing had once had a sharp edge. Now it was just what siblings did, the good kind of sibling relationship I'd always envied in others. Later, as we all crowded on my couch with the kids squeezed between us, I felt a contentment I hadn't known was possible with my family. The journey from that explosive confrontation 6 months ago to this peaceful evening hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks, difficult conversations, moments when old wounds reopened. But we'd persisted, committed to creating something healthier than what we'd known before. My parents were finding their way forward. My father taking responsibility for his actions for perhaps the first time in his life. My mother learning that protecting people from consequences wasn't the same as loving them. The car incident, what we now referred to as the wake-up call, had been a painful but necessary catalyst. Sometimes it takes a crisis to break through years of dysfunction, to make the invisible visible, to force change when comfortable patterns seem immovable. I'd learned that forgiveness isn't a single act, but a process. That setting boundaries isn't selfish, but necessary. That family can hurt you deeply, but also heal alongside you if they're willing to face hard truths. Most importantly, I'd learned that my worth wasn't determined by comparison to anyone else. Not to Kimberly, not to colleagues, not to friends with their own measures of success. My journey was my own, with its unique challenges and victories. As the movie ended and the kids debated a second one, I caught Travis's eye across the room. He gave me a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of how far we'd all come. We were the unlikely allies who had triggered this family revolution, and though the work wasn't finished, the foundation had been laid for something better than what came before. "Uncle Max," Emma asked, tugging on my sleeve, "can we have more popcorn?" "Sure thing, kiddo." I headed to the kitchen, smiling at the ordinary request, the ordinary moment made extraordinary by the journey it had taken to get here. Family healing, like personal healing, isn't a destination but a continuing journey, sometimes painful, sometimes joyful, always worth the effort. The car that once symbolized my independence now reminded me of something more valuable: the courage to speak truth, set boundaries, and create space for authentic connection. What do you think about family dynamics and setting boundaries? Have you ever had to confront loved ones about difficult truths? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences. And share with someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself doesn't mean giving up on family, it might just be the thing that saves it. Thank you for listening. And remember, healing is possible, even from the deepest wounds.